The security system protecting 88 million euros in French crown jewels was guarded by a password. Tiaras worn by Napoleon's wives. Sapphires that touched the necks of queens. 3 centuries of royal history behind a single login screen. The password was the word Louvre. 6 letters. The name of the building. That's it. 4 men in construction vests knew it. On a Sunday morning, they pulled a white truck alongside the Seine. 7 minutes later, the crown jewels were gone. No alarms, no chase. The gallery wouldn't be checked for another 43 minutes. But this isn't a story about 4 clever criminals. It's about the hundreds of people who warned this would happen, who carried signs about it, who marched in the streets, and were told to go back to work. October 19th, 2025, Paris. Autumn sunlight on the glass pyramid. A white moving truck parks on Quai François Mitterrand, right beside the Seine. 2 men step out. Yellow construction vests. Hard hats. They set orange safety cones around the vehicle. They activate a hydraulic lift from the truck's rear cargo hold. They look like a municipal crew starting a Sunday shift. Nobody questions them. Not the tourists by the river, not the guards checking tickets 50 meters away. 2 more men are already inside the museum. They entered through the visitor doors, blending with the Sunday morning crowd. Backpacks, comfortable shoes, cameras around their necks, invisible. At 9:32, the 4 converge in the Galerie Napoleon. Gold-covered walls, a painted ceiling soaring 60 feet overhead, display cases that cost hundreds of thousands of euros each, engineered to be impenetrable. Glass shatters, hands reach in. Tiaras studded with thousands of diamonds. Emerald necklaces Napoleon gave to his wives. Sapphire earrings once worn by French queens. Loaded into padded equipment bags with the speed of men on a schedule. By 9:39, the truck pulls away from the curb. Safety cones collected. Hydraulic lift folded. 2 men in vests climb into the cab and close the doors. 7 minutes. 88 million euros. The most famous museum on Earth. Not a single alarm sounded. 4 men just took everything from the Louvre in broad daylight. But here's what separates this from every heist story you've heard. This wasn't a surprise. Hundreds of people saw it coming. They held signs about it. They marched in the streets, and they were told it didn't matter. We need to go back. 27 years back, 1998. A comprehensive security audit flags the Louvre's vulnerabilities: outdated alarm systems, insufficient staffing, access codes unchanged in years. The report recommends an immediate overhaul. It gets filed. 16 years pass. 2014, another audit, far more damning. This one doesn't flag the museum in general terms. It names the room. The Galerie Napoleon, the Crown Jewels Gallery, is identified as a specific high-risk target. The auditors describe how a coordinated team could breach the gallery during operating hours. They lay out the scenario step by step. They recommend upgraded sensors, biometric access controls, 24-hour monitoring. Budget requested, budget denied. Then the workers speak up. Museum guards, the people who walk those halls every day, who know every dead zone in the camera coverage, every gap in the shift rotation, start raising alarms through their unions. Conditions are deteriorating. Staff has been cut. Technology is aging out. Nobody's listening. So they stop asking politely. They go on strike. On the picket lines, their signs don't say better wages. They warn of a major theft from the Crown Jewels collection. They describe the exact vulnerability: understaffed galleries, degraded systems, predictable guard routines a coordinated team could exploit. They were right about the method, right about the target, right about the timeline. Management's response? The risk was manageable. Go back to work. The Louvre's own staff predicted this heist. But what management didn't tell the public was something worse. The Louvre wasn't even the first French museum to get hit. It wasn't the second. It wasn't the third. Before October 19th, 4 other French museums suffered major thefts. The pattern was identical every time. A team identifies an institution with outdated security. They study the staffing gaps. They find the window. They take what they want. After each incident, a security review is commissioned. A report is written. Recommendations are made. Budgets are requested. Nothing happens. Museum 1, theft. Report, inaction. Museum 2, theft. Report, inaction. Museum 3, same story. Museum 4, same ending. The cycle repeats so many times it stops looking like negligence. It starts looking like policy. Each theft was a dress rehearsal. Each ignored report was a green light. Each year, the Louvre's own defenses fell further behind. The same access codes, the same camera blind spots, the same 6-letter password on the same login screen. Then came a quote that, in hindsight, reads like satire. After one of those prior incidents, a senior official in the French Ministry of Culture went on record. He stated that the Louvre's crown jewels were, his words, adequately protected by existing protocols. Adequately protected. By a password that was the name of the building. Everyone knew. The auditors knew in 1998. The staff knew when they struck. 4 previous thefts proved it. A senior official called the jewels adequately protected, which raises the question no one in Paris wants to answer. Who were the 4 men who finally walked through that open door? And what they chose to take, and what they chose to leave behind, changes everything. If you're following this case, subscribe now. We'll be covering the investigation as it develops. Now, the crew. What investigators have pieced together reveals months of preparation. The construction vests came from a legitimate industrial supplier. The truck was rented through a standard commercial channel. The hydraulic lift, the safety cones, the hard hats, all purchased legally, all disposable. Nothing custom, nothing exotic, nothing that would look out of place on any job site in France. That was the design. One of the men visited the Galerie de Napoleon 11 times in 3 months, always on Sundays, always alone. He never lingered at the jewel cases, he watched the guards, how long they stood at each post, when they checked their phones, when the shift change opened a 90-second gap in coverage. He wasn't studying the jewels, he was studying the humans. 7 minutes of execution, built on months of patience most people can't fathom. Inside the gallery, they moved like men following a shopping list. Specific cases, specific pieces. Tiaras heavy with diamonds, emerald necklaces, sapphire earrings. Each item grabbed with purpose, loaded with precision. But they walked past one case without stopping. Didn't touch the glass, didn't even slow down. The Regent Diamond, 140 carats, once set in the crown of Louis XV, arguably the most valuable single object in the room, worth more than nearly everything else they took combined. They looked at it, and they kept walking. Why would 4 men take 88 million euros in jewels and leave behind the most famous diamond in France, unless taking them wasn't really the point? The Regent Diamond is one stone, one shape, one provenance known to every gem dealer on Earth. You cannot sell it. You cannot recut it without destroying its value. You cannot move it without being caught. It is, paradoxically, too famous to take. But the pieces they took? Different story entirely. A tiara holds hundreds of small diamonds. Pry them from the setting, and each stone becomes anonymous. An emerald necklace separates into individual gems. Each one can be recut, reshape the facets, alter the proportions, and the stone becomes forensically unrecognizable. Gold mountings melt into bars. Settings dissolve in acid. The The crew didn't take treasures. They harvested raw materials. This wasn't a heist. It was a demolition contract, a supply chain operation designed to convert 364 years of history into anonymous commodity. Taken gems moved to cutting centers, often crossing multiple borders within days. Stones are reshaped, reduced, scattered across dozens of markets, then reintroduced into legitimate channels as new gems with no provenance, no past. Every day that passes, more stones are recut, more settings melted, more history erased. The four men didn't plan to own Napoleon's emeralds. They planned to grind them into something no one could ever recognize. So now you know what was taken, and you know what's being done to it. The jewels aren't locked in some vault waiting for recovery. They're being unmade. But in the days after October 19th, something shifted. The staff's old warnings, the ones from the picket signs, the ones management waved away, found their way to the press. When France read what its own museum workers had been saying for years, the conversation stopped being about four men in a truck.
Here is the timeline, Fury. All of it, Fury.
Here is the timeline.
Unbroken.
All of it. Unbroken. 1998. Security audit. Filed. 2014. Audit names the exact room. Filed. Staff complaints. Ignored. Union grievances. Dismissed. Strikes with specific warnings. Suppressed. Museum theft 1. Report filed. Theft 2. Report filed. 3. 4. Each time, recommendations. Each time, nothing. Then, October 19th, 2025. 27 years of warnings, all funneling toward one Sunday morning and a password that was the name of the building. When the staff's predictions went public, the debate cracked France in two. Administration blamed the crew. The government blamed the administration. The unions released their archives. Every warning, every budget request, every denial letter. The public read them and saw the truth. The workers had described almost exactly what happened. One guard who marched in the strikes gave an interview after the incident. She said she wasn't surprised. The only surprise, she said, was that it took this long. So where does the guilt land? The case against the crew is simple. A crime is a crime. Negligence doesn't excuse theft. 4 men chose to shatter those cases. They should answer for it. The case against the institution is harder to dismiss. If you're warned for 27 years and change nothing, are you still a victim? Or are you something else? If the password is the name of the building and someone types it in, did they break in? Or did you leave the door open? The courts will sort out sentences. Investigations will determine which protocols failed. But none of that changes what is happening right now. Not last month, not after some trial. Right now, while you're listening to this. The jewels that survived Napoleon, 2 world wars, and the fall of an empire, they're disappearing. If this story matters to you, share it. This is the kind of story that only travels if you carry it. Strip everything away. The debate, the blame, the politics. Right now, somewhere, likely multiple somewheres, the pieces are being taken apart. A tiara that Napoleon placed on Josephine's head is being pried apart with pliers. Emeralds that survived revolutions, occupations, and the collapse of empires are spinning against a grinding wheel in a workshop no investigator will find. Every hour, there is less to recover. Every day, more vanishes. The arrangement of the stones, the shape of the gold, craftsmanship from hands dead 200 years, all of it converted into raw material no one can trace. The debate over guilt is almost academic now. The thing they're arguing about is ceasing to exist. Not taken, not hidden, erased. The Louvre reopened the Galerie Napoleon 6 days after the incident. New cases, new glass, new password. Visitors take selfies in front of empty velvet stands. The plaques are still there, mounted on the walls. They describe each missing piece in detail, what it looked like, who wore it, when it was made. The descriptions are now more complete than whatever's left of the jewels themselves.